Said, good morning, students.
Good morning.
That's right. Welcome to the Kentucky Museum. Here you'll learn about some famous and not so famous Kentuckians. Now, my name is Daniel Boone. Why am I so famous? Well, because a man named John Filson wrote a book about me in 1784 entitled The Discovery, Settlement, and Present State of Kentucky. It made me famous worldwide, while others, like Herod Kenton and Logan, received little attention. But the real story of me can't be reserved for books. Not now, at least. I was born November 2nd, 1734, near Reading, Pennsylvania, the son of Quaker pioneers. However, I only spent about 16 years of my life in Pennsylvania because my father moved us to North Carolina in 1750. Because I spent so much time hunting in my youth, I didn't get much education. Most of my childhood was spent among the Native Americans and in forests. I received my first rifle at the age of 12 and learned to hunt from both local settlers and American Indians. I had much rather possess a good fowling piece with 2 faithful dogs and traverse the wilderness with 1 or 2 friendly Indian companions and in quest of a herd of buffalo or deer than to possess the best township or to fill the first executive office of the state. Nature was where I belonged. Nature doesn't judge. Nature just is. As a young man, I served during the French and Indian War, a struggle for control of the land beyond the Appalachian Mountains. After returning home from service, I got married. The possibility of settling somewhere new came about after a Cherokee uprising in 1758, so I decided to start considering Kentucky. Now, while on a long hunt with my brother, Squire Boone Jr., I first discovered Kentucky in 1767. I'd heard about the fertile land and abundant game of the region, so in 1769, I decided on a 2-year hunting expedition through the area. Unfortunately, I was captured by a party of Shawnees, but escaped, continuing to hunt and explore the beautiful land of Kentucky until my return to North Carolina 2 years later. During such explorations, I can't say as ever I was lost, but I was bewildered once for 3 days. In late 1773, I packed up my family and began to establish a settlement in Kentucky. War with the Indians was off and on throughout this time, mostly because they saw white settlers as poachers and refused to sign our peace treaty at the time. Now, following these disputes, a prominent judge from North Carolina purchased the Cherokee claim to Kentucky to establish a colony called Transylvania. Afterwards, the man hired me to blaze what became known as the Wilderness Trail, which ran through the Cumberland Gap and into central Kentucky. Along with a party of about 30 workers, I marked a path to the Kentucky River where I founded Boonesboro. Violence in Kentucky increased with the outbreak of the American Revolutionary War. Natives began pushing colonists out, leading us to retreat to the fortified settlements of Boonesboro, Harrodsburg, and Logan Station. To say I wasn't scared would be a pronounced lie. I wouldn't quite understand a man who isn't sometimes afraid. Fear is the spice that makes it interesting to forge ahead. And forge ahead I did. In April 1777, Shawnee Indians attacked Boonesboro. A bullet struck my leg, shattering my kneecap. Many more were wounded. Some died. Shortly afterward, I was captured and taken north, but escaped yet again, returning to Boonesboro, successfully defending it and making the fort once again strong. I then returned to North Carolina to bring my family back to Kentucky, but rather than stay in Boonesboro, I established a nearby settlement of Boone Station. Meanwhile, the war dragged on, dragging me into joining General George Rogers Clark's invasion of the Ohio country in 1780. My footsteps were often marked with blood. 2 sons and a brother did I lose to savage hands, which also cost me an abundance of cattle and horses. Many dark and sleepless nights was I a companion for owls, separated from the cheerful society of men and children like you, scorched by the summer sun and pinched by the winter's cold. Now, after the American Revolutionary War ended, my time in Kentucky was sparse and I began traveling to Missouri. However, the Kentucky years were the most dramatic and eventful of my life. In them, I made more history and most fully realized myself as a strong individual. However, I was unable to adapt to a settled community life and continued living as an explorer. You know, most historians would say there's nothing dramatic about me whatsoever, and that I was more calculating, cunning, and devious than most journeymen. Well, Americans have to have a hero. They have to have somebody to personify the things that get done, and I guess I'm an attractive person to make a hero. I didn't object. I didn't stand down. I was happy in the midst of dangers and inconveniences. I'd like to thank you children for coming and seeing me today, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your time at the Kentucky Museum. If you've got any questions, I would be really happy to answer them. So, you can ask me? Yes.
Were you adopted by Chief Blackfish?
Was I adopted by Chief Blackfish? Well, I had a family, and they raised me, so I was a friend of the Indians, but I wasn't adopted by them. So, yes.
Did you move to the West of our life?
I did. After I was exploring Kentucky, I moved to Missouri, and I stayed there for the rest of my life. But I did. Daniel Boone did enjoy Kentucky the most. Yes.
How many siblings do you have?
How many siblings? You guys are hitting me with analytical questions now. I had a brother, and I think I had another brother. I think.